Alrighty, it's me, Myrna, filling in again. It's 6 p.m. right now, and Wilson told me he...
Wait, what's happening here? Okay, first of all, I was gone for like 3 hours.
Oh god, you're actually here.
Yes, I would like for the record to show that I was not mixing daiquiris with Ambien. I was hydrating.
With wine coolers?
Hey, that's still technically a liquid. Anyway, you need to introduce the category. Ensembles remind us that stories are richer when perspectives collide, when strengths cover weaknesses, and when flaws create friction.
So, what you're saying is, 2 hosts are better than 1?
In theory.
See? Growth! Alright, you want to do this one together?
You know, what the hell, sure.
Alright, much like the nominees for this year's Best Ensemble, sometimes things work best when people come together.
Here are this year's nominees for Best Ensemble.
も発売されて長い人の話は最後まで聞いて乾杯仕方ない気がするウリコさんルリコさんルリコあの子ウリコさんの言う通りだよ水産を大事にしろよさあ今こそそいつを捕まえる時だ図らずもてめえよかった私たち生きてます本当によかったいけ俺たちの夢のためにたとえ殺し合うほど憎んでも同じ時代を作った仲間な気がするさあさあ皆さんお願いしますよ任せとけキラみんな行くキラキラ
And your jury winner for Ensemble Cast is Milky Subway, the Galactic Limited Express. Your public winner for Ensemble Cast is Orb on the Movements of the Earth.
Oh man, these are such interesting picks. Well, right off the bat, Mason, what do you think about these winners?
I think this is very on brand. Looking through the past history between public and jury results for casts, it's always been wishboned pretty definitively. It's not till 2016's Haikyuu season 2 that there was any sort of consensus. So I'm not surprised that there's a bit of divide. Both of these shows, honestly, in my running for favorites of the year. So I'm pleased that both of them won to some capacity. But it's always interesting to see why one show won over the other.
No, I totally agree. And I think that one of the most interesting picks for me is the jury pick, because Milky Subway has such a short runtime. I think it's about like 40 minutes, give or take some change. And it still creates such a memorable cast in such a short amount of time right there.
Absolutely. It definitely feels like a 2-episode OVA in terms of the total amount of content you get. And one thing I find interesting is, if you haven't seen it, it's essentially 6 people trapped on a moving subway as they do community jail time or whatever. But really, it's even almost feels like an even smaller cast because of the 6 characters. They're paired into groups of 2, so there's 3 groups of 2, if you will, which almost makes it feel like 3 characters that are just way more, not saying 3-dimensional because it's a 3D animated work, but there's just such life and realism that they bring to the table. And I was curious how the jury thought that way of introducing characters and sets kind of set it apart.
Yeah, it's a fun ensemble. Especially it's a trio of duos, but they all play well with each other, and they all eventually start interacting with the other duos in a way that really works. It's funny, like Myrna, you mentioned that it's short, and it's something that gets brought up a lot with Milky Subway, and it's really because it's really one of the only ways you can argue against it. Like, it's such a tight ensemble, and the big downside is just that it leaves you wanting more. It's just so tight how they get everything together. It's just, as you said, it's just them getting onto a space subway community service. It's only 40 minutes long, but as a jury, we just really appreciated how much they were able to pack into getting to know these characters, getting to know how they work as a duo, and getting to know how they work as a team.
I don't know if Milky Subway, how it's going to fare in other categories, what it's been nominated for, but it really would be a disservice to anyone who hasn't seen it to not give it a shot. It is on YouTube. It's easy to find. It's subbed well. It's dubbed well. It's immaculately paced. And I think this is probably the strongest case for just impeccable writing and just voice delivery. The way that characters talk over each other and feel so grounded is such a breath of fresh air. And anyone who has not checked it out and is wondering, why is it number one? Do it. I just can't vouch for it enough, and just want to plug it as much as I can.
Yeah, I'll just echo. The dialogue really puts it in a league of its own in this tier, or in this list of nominees.
That is a ringing endorsement for the jury pick right here. But I want to talk a little bit about the public's pick, which is Orb. And what I found interesting about Orb is that, it passes down from people to people. Like, it's a relay race of sort right there. And I also think that, it kind of is great for its own different reasons. Like, for example, there is a high-strung tension that runs throughout the show, and I think that's divvied up in the ensemble as well. Protractor, can you talk to me more about that? Because y'all had placed Orb relatively high in ensemble as well.
Yeah, we liked Orb. It got 4th overall. It was definitely one of the stronger shows of the year for ensemble. I think the relay race aspect of it is a strength, especially for this type of show that's quite tense at times. It really raises the stakes. The fact that there's no central character. We're constantly moving from people to people, so you don't really know what's going to happen next. I think the reason it's not higher is that different parts. There's parts that are stronger than others, but the format and the way it shows sort of the progression of science and ideas and theory and all that stuff, I thought came across really well.
I like your reference or allusion to a baton passing, considering that the mangaka's other work, 100 Meters, is right in line with that. But honestly, Orb was the show I was expecting to win this category, just because it felt so artisanally crafted and technically perfect to be the kind of show for this category, where each member of the cast is simultaneously insignificant as a person, but significant to the story, to the progress of scientific achievement, and the whole distance between them, but across time, space, and everything, is the appeal and really cohesive. And in a way that characters talking the show is completely different from Milky Subway, where everything here was very grand and sweeping and calculating in a way that isn't as realistic. I found it really endearing and emotional, and definitely a more interesting sort of character ensemble than something like City the Animation, which I also enjoyed, but that felt less of a baton pass and more of a hot potato, where you were just quickly bouncing between little groupings of characters, but that they weren't really connected across scenes in quite the same way.
See, it's funny. It's definitely not connected in the same way, but City I found to be much more like Orb is very segmented. Like, other than a few characters like Noak, like it's you can say like this are the people in this chunk of the story and this are the people in the other. But City has I found did a great job of intermingling each group. Like Wako might be hanging out with her roommates, but she also has a sister who goes to school with other people, and she goes to see the manga artist. Like I think the City does a nice job of making sure that nobody's in an island disconnected from the rest of the cast.
Fair. It's more of, I guess, to me, City felt like the character was the city, and it had all these characters bouncing around within it, which is kind of the point. And I will say, episodes 5 scene short-circuited my synapses, and I just shrieked out loud as that was happening. And that was an experience unlike any other anime this year. So glad to see it rating so highly. If it's
Go
ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to ask, were you one of the people that just stopped at every frame to see what was going on in episode 5? Or did you just try to raw dog it and just watch it all the way through?
I will say eons of watching shows like Monogatari and Tatami Galaxy have trained me, but at the same time, I, even without like the reading or comprehension thing, I think pausing it would have almost been a disservice to the just tidal crashing wave of overloading that was supposed to entail. Like, I think stopping for breath is not what should be done. You should just try to drink from a fire hose and rewatch it if you need be. But it was such a deluge that pausing it would have been, I feel, sinful, at least for a first watch.
No, I totally agree with you. And I love that philosophy that you had. That, like, you know what? They designed the roller coaster to go at 300 miles per hour. I'm going to let it take me at 300 miles per hour.
I'm going to strap in.
Yeah.
I might have missed some stuff. I probably, I did go back and rewatch it and like analyze how one element would bounce up into another one. If you don't know what we're talking about, please at least watch City of the Animation. And if not that, at least episode 5, because it is one of the finest moments of 2025 in anime.
Now, Mason, I wanted to ask you something that you could just really chew your thoughts on right here. So I wanted to ask why you think a show would go for a strong ensemble instead of just a singular lead. Like, what themes can properly be explored in an ensemble that it can't in something that is more singularly focused?
Ooh, that's a very good question. And I think it's just, honestly, one of the shows that did pretty highly on both things, because I think it was actually not a great example of an ensemble, and that is Dr. Stone Science Future. Now, full disclosure, I had not finished all of this, and I know there's a third season to come next year, but that show, it's a big long shonen. It's had a big cast because it's been running for 50 plus episodes. It has probably the biggest cast of the batch here. But it felt like so many of the characters were just flat caricatures. Like, anyone could have been in the background being explained to what the science was by Senku or the one person. And I felt like it wasn't a strong ensemble. And you didn't have that back and forth, that engaging dialogue that you get from a grouping of fantastic characters. At the heart of it, you need all these good building blocks to make an ensemble. And so that's why I was curious seeing Dr. Stone so high, and I guess with a good ensemble, you get that dialogue, which is the crux of how ideas can flow.
Doctor, I saw that y'all rated it fairly high right here. Would you also agree with what Mason is saying right here?
Yeah, I think Mason's got a bit of a point there. Like, if you look at an ensemble, like, this is a very, I don't know, I don't want to say lopsided, but like Senku's leading the ensemble and everybody else is wearing a hat that they fulfill. So it's got in some ways a bit of a more simple ensemble, but I will say what stuck out to me is, one, they have a very large ensemble that keeps growing, and they do manage to give everybody stuff to do, which I think is an impressive juggling act. And the end of the season, I think, is the best part of Science Future. I think they're able to really show the importance of the ensemble. I don't want to give away anything, but I think that the final act of this portion of Science Future really shows the importance that the ensemble has had up until now. So I think it's a mixture of that coming through. Like, it's not the perfect ensemble. I think the critique makes sense, but it has its own strengths.
I'm going to bust your chops and say, it gets good later after season 4 is a bit of a stretch. That said, knowing the amount of effort you guys put into this thing, I absolutely believe you and take your word for it. I guess the interesting question I wanted to ask about is probably the biggest discrepancy on the list between jury and public, and that is Catch Me at the Ballpark. And before I get into my ludicrous theory on that, I want to ask you, knowing that this is an ensemble cast category, who is your favorite character and why is it Sunshiro?
I was gonna say Sunshiro.
Obviously.
he's great. It's funny. There's a few characters that I really like in it, but Sunshiro's great. He's the mascot for the Motor Sons. He starts off just sort of being like this sort of all-knowing mascot who can help out anybody in the stadium, but There's a lot going on underneath the mask, and I don't know. The funny thing about Sanshiro and a few other characters, like I could have said Dennis or a few others, but like everybody in that show gets a few scenes to work with. There's no like big lead other than maybe our main couple, but yeah, it's I don't know. I love that ensemble. I'm so glad you brought up Ballpark.
So I guess in your estimation, was it just the difference in the sorry? So in your estimation,
the difference between the jury and the
public and jury, yeah, was it just they couldn't see past maybe the animation or various shortcomings of the show outside of the ensemble, or like what do you feel like caused the great chasm?
So yeah, I think there's a few reasons that you could rank Ballpark low. The first would be if you, for some reason, are judging the show based off the animation. This is a show that is great for the ensemble category, but there's a reason it didn't show up in any of our production categories.
Doesn't look like Taco Peas, that's for sure.
No, it's no Takobi. To be honest, though, I don't think the show was that popular. I think that unfortunately it's a bit of a hidden gem, and I hope people see this high ranking and think, why is the baseball beer show this high up? But I think it's just one of those shows that it looks a bit unassuming on the surface. But once you get into it, it's just really well crafted. You really sense the whole stadium. It paints such a wonderful mood. I think the season it was airing, I think I didn't look forward to any show more than Ballpark, and it was just because it made baseball. It made it look utopian. Honestly, it was just.
It made you want to go to a game. It made you miss opening day, and very Gurazeni-esque, but on a different, more public-facing side of operations.
Yeah, exactly.
So now I get to unfortunately ask you the opposite question, which is the almost as large gap between, actually even larger, which is Konosuba Season 3's bonus stage OVA, and what might have caused it on falling so low on the jury side. Was it just you've already seen these characters so many times that the OVA format, mostly being a vehicle for ecchi fan service, just didn't execute the characters as well as in the main show?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. Like, this isn't Konosuba at its best, I would say, especially if we're judging it as an ensemble. That the first episode with the swimsuit beach stuff isn't. I don't think it's really putting a lot of the ensemble in the best light. But the second episode's a bit better at showing why Konosuba's ensemble works. I honestly think a big part of this is maybe a difference in opinion in how the category is viewed. I think if you look at it as an ensemble is made up of strong characters, I think it's hard to argue that Konosuba doesn't have some of the most memorable characters. Like, you got Aqua, Megami, Darkness, Kazuma. They're all very strong, very comedic characters that have a big impression. But if you look at them as like an ensemble, firstly, like Kazuma is very much our lead, and we very rarely see anybody interacting without him, which would not be true for most of the entries on this list. And also just in this specific batch of episodes, I don't know, like we're not really seeing too much. It's still the Kazuma show. Like we're not seeing too much of a shine from the rest of the cast. So if you're focused more on the dynamics between the cast, I think that, and especially if you're looking at the eligible episodes, I think that Konosuba's OVA is not the franchise putting its best foot forward.
People are bringing in 3 seasons worth of love and adoration and memories into an OVA that is just a little underwhelming compared to what it's offered in the past.
Yes, yeah. But I'm glad they enjoy it. I'm doing awards. I'm always reminded how much people love Konosuba.
One thing I really love about this category, as opposed to genre type stuff that I've been a part of in the past, is this list is so diverse yet excellent. Like, you could show this to an anime fan and anyone could find something from this list that they really enjoy. So this really is such a comprehensive vertical slice of what anime has to offer across so many different elements that it's kind of cool seeing them all stacked up together in this unique way.
Yeah, I was so happy that we came up with this idea for Ensemble, because at first, like there was a moment when we were getting started, like it's such a restriction, like the actual shows that we figured qualify as one of these, that there was a moment where we were unsure if we'd have 10 good shows worth highlighting.
Well, there wasn't even this category last year, right? There wasn't even a.
No, there wasn't. We didn't do cast or ensemble. And even in the past when we've done cast, like this is a slightly different take on it. That's more restrictive. But in the end, we had more than 10. We were quite happy with it, and it just makes you look in places that you wouldn't look elsewhere. Like Ballpark's the perfect example. Dr. Stone. A lot of these aren't shows that the juries are putting forward in a lot of other categories, but they shine in this specific aspect, and I love that we got to highlight it.
Fantastic. Do y'all want to keep discussing, or do you want me to just wrap it up? Which, by the way, this is fantastic. I love the discussion that's happening here. I don't want to rush y'all, but we are clocking in at about 19 minutes, give or take. So we can wrap up if you guys like.
I mean, yeah, why not wrap up? Because the more we speak, the more I'll get cut.
Oh, no. I promise you, we're only going to get 5 or 6 minutes of this. We're totally... This will come out for the full discussion later, but like every category is getting butchered, like just to make some time.
Make it easier for you guys. You guys are going through so much, and I always appreciate the time, effort you guys put into it.
This has been one of my favorite discussions of all the categories we've done. We've done like 17 categories. This is such a great discussion. I love this. Let me wrap it up. All right, well that's gonna be it for Ensemble right here. Thank you so much for coming on, Mason and Protractor.
We have to wrap it up already? Okay, well.
Thank you for having us. It's always a blast.
All right, and on to the next category.
And now, a message from Yohei Kameyama, director of Milky Subway. We are truly honored to receive 2 awards from the Our Anime Awards this year. To have been supported in the form of people from all around the world voting for us over the internet gives us great confidence for our future projects. Thank you so much. From animation producer Tsunenari Oka. Thank you very much for awarding Orb on the Movement of the Earth the awards for Best Drama and Best Ensemble Cast. On receiving the opportunity to adapt this fantastic manga by Uoto-sensei into an anime, we entered production striving to convey the appeal of this work to as many people as possible. We are extremely pleased that we were able to receive this award, showing that it has been widely appreciated even among all of you abroad. On behalf of everyone involved in the production of this show, we thank you with all of our hearts. In the future, we hope to continue to create works that show off the appeal of animation. Once again, thank you so much.